sharp and try to have a very efficient meeting. Um, Don, who is our brand new coordinator, which is very exciting. Don Meltz. We want to just start the meeting. We're going to do our minutes in a minute. I'm jumping ahead a little because I'm very excited. We've had the great benefit of having Wendy Madsen serve in this role for over a year, I believe. Wendy, correct me if I'm wrong. And she's done a great job on a lot of fronts, and I want to thank her for all that work. She has a lot of other work on her docket with solid waste, so it's been very impressive to see how effective she's been in this role as well as her other responsibilities, and we just appreciate her juggling those roles. But the energy benchmarking, the submission for certification, and a lot of other work around solar and accounting, a lot of information gathering, a lot of things that we don't see on the back end, and we need to appreciate because it doesn't happen otherwise. So Wendy Madsen, thank you so much. I don't know if she's on. I don't see her, but we'll pass those things. So, oh, there she is. Hi, Wendy. Thank you so much, and we wish you all the best with your, I'm sure, growing and extensive solid duties, and hope that we can continue to work together. I'm sure we will. And I wanted to welcome Don Meltz, who's in the planning department, and just thank Don for his enthusiasm and jumping right in here, and appreciate your presence. And we had a meeting last week, Don and I, very proactive and very engaged, and there's a lot of good work we're going to do together. In addition to being a planner, which means that he plans, so he's strategic and organized, which is great. He also has GIS skills and a lot of other skills, and is really passionate about what we're doing. I remember back when we did the Climate Carnival last year, and it was a lot of people, Wendy and Jolene and Tistria and Don, who really kind of pulled that together from the county standpoint and really did a huge amount of work to make that happen. Again, kind of behind the scenes, so we don't all see it, but that's how it happens. So Don, welcome, and we can start our meeting, but it's great to have you.
Mhm.
So we are following our bylaws now, thanks to the Board of Supervisors for doing that. And we will start the meetings with an attendance and with an acceptance or any modifications that need to be made to the minutes. I don't know if Maureen on the call?
No, Maureen is out this week. So actually I'm doing double duty. I'm taking a little bit of her role. So she asked me to check off all the folks that signed in and take a few notes for her. So
Okay.
I've been checking off folks as I see them pop in, but I have a few missing. I'm not sure. Donald, Supervisor Collins is
Here.
here. Okay. Susan Flam. I don't see her signed in yet. Dan Haas. Nope. Supervisor Hotling. I think she said she wasn't going to be able to make it.
Right.
Claudia Kenny. Nope. Bill Mancini.
Mike's not working. He's on.
See that? Okay.
And also, I see Dan's name, Dan Haas's name.
Dan Haas. Okay, I'll check him off there. Steve Powers.
I see him at the top there.
Okay. Jolene, are you here?
She's here. She's in my office with me.
Okay. Jody Rail. Nope. And Matt Stinchcomb. Not here. Okay. So Maureen, Christina, were you able to? Christina Bonsack?
She was earlier.
Yep, I saw her.
I'm here. I'm here.
Here, okay. Tara Donadio?
I'm here.
Okay, you're here. Okay. Oswaldo, okay. Okay, I think that's, I have everyone else that is. I saw your name popped up and signed up. Okay, I think I'm complete with that. Good.
Great.
Hi, Don. I just wanted to add in Audrey Kropp with
Yep, yeah.
Cooperative Extension. And I've also
I-
invited my colleague Lindsay.
Okay, yeah, I did see that name. I wasn't sure who that was. Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
Okay. Do we have any comments on the minutes? If not, we need a motion and a second to adopt the minutes.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
That's Steve Powers. A second.
second it.
Great. Jennifer Phillips, thank you. Any opposed? Speak up. Great. Minutes approved. So Wendy, can we turn it over to you for a moment on the next agenda item?
Sure. What was this? I'm assuming the certification.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so the state, they postponed or extended the deadline actually. So technically this is super unofficial. But we have 132 points. So we will be bronze when they award it to us, but it's looking at, I think Friday or Monday or something is when they'll have it finished. But all of our actions have been that have been completed were either approved or there were still some that needed some revision. But a huge shout out to Tara. I know you're on, Tara, yes. Without her help pulling the community greenhouse gas inventory that was completed in 2013, this probably would have been a failure again. And so I can't thank her enough. So thank you so much, Tara, wherever you are.
Happy to help.
Always helping in so many ways. Well, that's great. Thanks, Wendy, and thank you for all the great work. And it started a few years ago with Alejandra, who was our intern from Cornell, who did the original roadmap with help from our New Lebanon contingent to guide her and us through that process. And we're still using that roadmap. It's something that we are updating, and Don and I talked about last week, and he's actually dug into it. So great news. Bronze. We won't celebrate yet, but thanks all. So I think we should start with the hottest item on our agenda, which is the Heat Smart campaign, the energy efficiency heating and cooling campaign. We had a great, and I will say this again, I'm not just exaggerating, it really was a very effective, well-attended meeting, Zoom meeting this week on Tuesday evening that Christina Bonsack led, and we had Rycor there and the Radiant Store. And there was a lot of information, a lot of engagement. I don't know exactly how many people we had, well over 100. I've heard 110, 150. I'm not sure what the count was, but there were a lot of people and there was a lot of engagement. And I talked to Terry at the Radiant Store this morning, actually, and he said he's already heard 4 people that have followed up since then with him alone. So great work. The other thing, and I would love Christina to add, or anyone else to add anything on what we take away from that event or how it went, and what's coming next. But we have submitted for, this is a little bit of a repeat, but we've already gotten the minimum number of people in the county to sign up for upgrades in their homes, and so we have submitted. Wendy has submitted the NYSERDA documentation for the $15,000 grant. So we are confident that we will receive that. And then there are some limitations on how we use that. And then there's a discussion of how we as a committee can recommend to the board how those funds may be used and how they get budgeted. So we'll talk about that a little later. But Christina, do you want to add anything, or anyone else, on just the event itself and where we're at and what you think the impact was?
Yeah, I think it went well. I wish I'd had a second person on the admin side. I don't know if it was a little awkward in the beginning when I was still trying to present while running the waiting room, but lessons learned. We got 185 people registered in the end. I'm working on uploading the recording, and then I'll send an email to all of the registrants. I think some people were dipping out. I think the highest number I saw of live attendance was around 130. But everyone who registered will get the recording and the slides, so they can do that. And we'll also put that up on the Heat Smart website so people can have those things available later. But yeah, I think it went well. We did schedule our first in-person event in Germantown on March 23rd at our activity building, which has heat pumps. And I've been talking to some of the other municipalities about kind of teaming up with some neighboring towns. So we do some geographically distributed in-person events in the coming months.
Great. I don't know if there are any other comments on that or future activities, but it goes maybe without saying, but I'll say it, that the work that Christina is doing is driving this. And, from their website to these information sessions to her availability, so that the program that you're running, Christina, is, will just attest to its value for a county like ours. We're a volunteer, as you know. This is all volunteer based. And, we can assist, but you're doing the heavy lifting here. So it's very well appreciated. And it seems like it's having a big impact.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. And I think, those who were at the seminar, I talked a little bit about the clean energy hubs, which is what's managing Heat Smart at this point. And they're really going to try to be a resource for rural counties and things like that have historically not had the resources to push this stuff themselves. So stay tuned and stay in touch, and hopefully we can collaborate on some other things as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is really making a big, especially the low moderate income incentives. This is making a big impact on people's lives who are participating and their pocketbooks. So it's really important work. Steve.
Christina, did you want to reiterate your hours again for everybody?
So I can be available a lot of times, but I am having office hours every Tuesday from 12 to 1. So if any of the townships want to talk about their campaigns, they can just drop in then, or any potential people interested in heat pumps, we can just kind of go through it. And it's often only a few people there, so it can be kind of nice to like hear other people's questions. It may answer the same thing at the same time, or it may jog something that you weren't thinking about. So it's a nice way of getting together. And then also, if you want to email me, we can also just set up a private meeting as well.
Great. Thank you, Christina. Anything else on the Heat Smart energy efficient? It's really a mouthful. Energy efficiency heating and cooling campaign. I want to thank also Matthew Mercier and the group who put together the press release that went out for this meeting. I think it had an impact, and for supervisors Knott and Adams for providing us with quotes, and that was really came together quickly, and it was really helpful. So thank you all. Okay, moving along. I will continue plugging ahead, and we will track the numbers. And I don't know what they are. Do you have that,
Hey, can I
Christina?
just say one more thing? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I also wanted to let everyone know, Don has at his office now flyers for the campaign as we schedule other events, but also handouts from NYSERDA on each of their programs, the assistance programs, the comfort home programs for market rate people, as well as energy saving tips. So if anyone wants to pick those up to distribute in their town, even just leave it at town hall. They're at the State Street office, and there's hundreds of each of them, so plenty to go around.
Thank you. Come and get your flyers. Yeah, do you have an update on the number of people who signed up for the vendors, Christina? Do you know that number? If not, we can wait on it. No big deal. Just curious.
I don't, I just checked in with a bunch of the vendors, a lot of them saying, oh, we have this project pending. They take a little while to go in. So
Sure.
no new completed projects yet.
Okay, great. We'll track that. Keep updating folks. We just want to touch base on a few things. Greenhouse gas inventory, fast charger and the climate adaptation plan. I don't think either any of these take much time because there's not that much to talk about right now. But then we want to really get into the idea of, the discussion of our current kind of what should our work plan look like for the rest of this year and into next year, including appealing to the Board of Supervisors to allocate the funds that we've gotten through some of these early actions to some work that can further our impact and other projects that we'd like to get into. But the greenhouse gas inventory, there, as everyone knows, there's a government operations greenhouse gas inventory that's going on right now that's being done in-house, an extension of the benchmarking work that Wendy started last year. I don't know if anyone has an update on that, but we also had a discussion, as everyone remembers, last meeting with Cal Roberts from eClay about doing a much more ambitious kind of community-wide greenhouse gas inventory. As was referenced earlier, in 2013, the county had an inventory done. It was part of a regional effort. And in some ways it could be an update on that. In some ways it would be more comprehensive, I think, than that. I will pause there, but I'll just set the question, which is, what are the next steps, do we feel, in pursuing the community-wide greenhouse gas inventory? This would be the precursor to a comprehensive climate action plan for the county. That would be kind of a twin pillar along with the climate adaptation plan to help guide the work that the county does in the future, at least put forth recommended actions that would help us achieve our goals that fit our needs in our county. And so it's a very important component to the work, and it helps frame all of these actions in our work planning in the future. So I just would love to get, if there's any update on the government operations, that's great, but it's ongoing, so that's fine if there's not. I'd like to get some feedback. Don and I have some ideas how we can move forward on the community side. But does anyone, I don't want to talk anymore, so does anyone want to have anything to add here? So if there's no update on the government operations, Don, do you want to just kind of lay out what we talked about in terms of how we
Yeah, sure.
scope out?
Well, yeah, as far as the government operations, Tara and I have talked about, we've gone over, I think you've talked about it at previous meetings, but I just got up to speed on it, and it's basically just going out to the different department heads and finding out how much fuel they use. We just want to measure basically it's finding out the entire amount of electricity, natural gas, propane, fuel oil, gasoline, diesel that the county uses over the course of a year, and converting that into how much greenhouse gas emissions does that equal. I did verify with Jolene that none of the county landfills have been closed within the last 20 years. They have all been closed for a longer period than that, so they won't be included in the inventory. And there is an optional option of trying to determine how much commuting distance, time, gasoline usage is used by county employees. That's an optional element we can include in there. And I've discussed this a little bit with Patrice on how we might be able to go about getting that, either with a survey or trying to dig into some of the county records. If we can, there are some privacy issues with that, obviously, but there might be a way we can get some kind of a list of where folks live and where they commute to, and do some calculations there. So that's where we are with the county GHG inventory. The community one, again, yeah, Dave and I sat down and talked about what some options are. I think the initial thing we have to decide is, are we going to go with the eClay process, or there are some open source options out there. Obviously, if we go with eClay, there are some costs involved, so we have to evaluate what the value is for spending money on eClay. I know, open source sounds free, but often it's not. There. I don't know if I also teach a GIS class, a couple GIS classes down at Marist, and we discuss open source options a lot as far as software goes. And there's like 3 freedoms of open source software that they discuss. There's the freedom of use, which is equated with freedom of speech. There's the freedom of cost that is, they equate that with like freedom of free beer. You're giving someone a free beer, it doesn't cost you anything. And the third freedom that you have to consider in open source software is it's also free like a puppy. So if everybody's ever received a puppy as a gift, know that gift is not free. It costs you time, money, commitment, effort over the course of that entire puppy's life to raise it and train it and feed it and everything. So there are some costs involved with open source end of things too, and we just have to kind of sit down and evaluate what the differences are, so we can bring that to the board of supervisors and justify those costs of going with the eClay option if that's the direction we're going to go in. So I think that's
Yeah,
the gist, Dave. Real, yeah.
That's great. And that was really helpful on the, I'm going to use that on free software. So we do have Cornell, and we have that option in eClay. According to Cal, the basic, if you were to kind of hire them to do the heavy lifting there, that a basic greenhouse gas inventory community-wide would cost us about $5,000, and then maybe a little more for really doing a comprehensive look into the sources and sinks, the natural sources and sinks through forest and agriculture that we're interested in. And of course, this is all negotiable. So, they're a nonprofit and we're a nonprofit essentially. So we would, try to work with them. And then what follows after that is a climate action plan. You have your inventory, you have your baseline, you know where your emissions are coming from, and you say, what are our goals? And then what are the actions that fit our county that we can actually effectively implement, what are feasible? And then we have stakeholder engagement, and we get feedback from the community in different sectors, and we adopt a plan, which is a guidance document. It's not a plan that is mandatory, I wouldn't imagine. It's a guidance document for the county to rely on, like the natural resource inventory that was done, like the climate adaptation plan. These are just guidance documents that then we can draw off of. There are roadmaps. They help guide us in terms of what we want to prioritize and focus on. So he said that, that type of comprehensive plan with stakeholder, that could be a $20,000-$25,000 project. So, we can do that in-house. We can do these things differently. What I think makes the most sense, we have a sense of the known, which is kind of a pretty fixed budget. We could get a full proposal, which we will, written proposal with details. Those are just estimates. So we'll have that. And on the other hand, we have the kind of the known unknown of the open source software and what it would take. And it's hard for us to estimate exactly how much Don's time and county resource time would be taken to raise the puppy. And so that is, I think, the question that we want to ruminate on. And I'd like to get a small group of us, Don and I, and anyone else that would like to join us, to dig deeper into this question so we can report back to this group, ideally in a month, may take us a little longer, and then come up with a consensus among this group, ideally, to bring something to the board. And if we do need resources, if we're not going to do it in-house, if we need to pay to hire someone, either way, it's going to require resources. But if we're going to have to hire someone, we would have to go through a budget process, which I'm not familiar with, but I'm sure Don and the supervisors can help guide us on in terms of how that would work going to the end of the year, so that the budget would be available by next year, I assume. Is that right, Don, roughly?
Yeah.
If we ask the board, we would appeal for resources for this. And if it was approved, it would go into the budget cycle of the end of the year.
Yep. Yeah, we have
Okay.
to, come up with some, evaluate the options, what are the costs of each option to show them and, help them make the decision on which is the most efficient course of action.
Yeah.
It goes through
So-
committee, it goes through the committees, I assume, like finance committee, government committee, then the full board.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I don't know if anyone, Steve has a comment. Go ahead, Steve.
I actually had a question. Sorry, maybe it's my internet connection here, but I think you were breaking up a little bit on the first figures that you mentioned. Did you say that was a Cornell Green extension quote?
No, that was a cost from eClay. So according to Cal, it would cost 5,000. I mean, this was in an email. This is not a proposal. It's
No,
just
no,
a
I'm curious. Yeah.
just to be clear, a standard community-wide inventory, not including the forest carbon component or agriculture, for $5,000. And then we'd scope out the data needs to figure out, for a proposal, they would scope it out to figure out what we could do on the kind of land use sources and sinks side. And then the climate plan, it depends on the amount of public engagement and how much we're managing versus they're managing in terms of stakeholder meetings and interviews, obtaining information from people, and then the number of actions that we prioritize in the plan. So we're looking at 40 different actions or a much smaller array, and that affects the emissions modeling that they do. So he says a climate action plan tends to fall between $15,000 and $25,000 range working with them. So we can get more details, and we will, and that's one option.
Okay, thanks.
Jennifer.
Well, one question. Last month, someone mentioned that Cornell has worked with the county in the past on an inventory. Was that, I don't know if that was the last inventory that was done in do we still have contact with that, whoever it was at Cornell? And is that still an option for at least the community-wide inventory? I don't know who it was that
Yeah, I
mentioned
think
that.
Sarah was talking about that, and I do think it's an option, and it's something that we need to really outline very clearly, so we all understand what that option entails.
Mhm.
And I don't know if there are other options beyond that.
Okay, then
But
this
I believe, sorry, Jennifer, I think the Cornell option, I think, is the open source kind of Excel spreadsheet version that we were
Okay.
talking about. I think that's right. I don't think that's the third option.
Well, isn't that's sort of what ICLEI does too. It's just that they have it all figured out.
Right.
It's all a spreadsheet one way or another, right? That everyone's using. It's just that ICLEI has their sort of version of the spreadsheet versus somebody else's spreadsheet.
Yeah,
A
and
lot
I
of it
haven't
is
done.
data gathering too, so we have to figure out, if the county is going to do all the data gathering for both of them. I don't know what ICLEI expects of the county. So, and I think that's a huge chunk of the time and effort, is just a data gathering, which might be the same between both of the options. But I don't know that until we start really digging into the details.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably more to it than this, but I mean, it's the software that we're using, the data gathering, most importantly, the support for the software and what we're doing, and then the updates. So like we're not doing this once, we're updating it. That's the whole point. So who's updating it? How does the software work? How easy is it to use? Those are things we have to evaluate. And I think my sense is that the eClay software is more robust, more user-friendly, more well thought out, more like the well-trained, maybe adult dog we're adopting instead of the rambunctious puppy. Tara.
Yeah, just noting that Another open source factor, I'm not sure what the Cornell one is, but the one that was just submitted that Wendy mentioned was approved by the DEC was the 2013 one, and that was done as a regional inventory with the help of Climate Action Associates, paid for by CDRPC. That tool, which is basically an Excel file, was kind of updated and used. Actually, Steve in New Lebanon used that as kind of a 2019 community inventory. With some newer factors and sources. So that is another option that's available. But that again is just another open source option that we could kind of guide you through, but would require some kind of collaboration. So
we need to dig in deep on these questions and look at the software and what's supported. Steve, it would be great. I don't want to volunteer you, but I know you have so much experience in this. It'd be great, at the very least, to pick your brain about your experience with that software. And Tara, of course. Jennifer, I think you're muted.
The second thing I was going to say was that on this idea of additional work with respect to ag and forestry, that would be something that that's something that I have some expertise in, and I could see, if I could come up with a grad student next year who would be interested in working on that, but it would probably be under the guidance of ICLEI or whoever else is out there. We could get a better deal from ICLEI if we, because if we can contribute sort of half the labor for it, that might be a factor in negotiating how much they're charging us for that additional work. I think I probably, in terms of just offering grad student help on getting the basic inventory done, it's not something that I could oversee myself. And so I wouldn't necessarily, that would be something that would have to, once an arrangement has been made with whoever is going to take the lead on it, that might be something that Bard could come up with a grad student to assist with. But to me, it's more feasible thinking about the ag and forestry part of it, just because I know that I could have some input there.
Yeah, that's great. That's and there seems to be a real potential to work with Bard and get some students involved, which is really would be great. Thank you. Does anyone on from Cornell have any? I don't know if they have any if you have any expertise in this area to add anything, or if not, just if you could put us in touch with those at Cornell who are conversant in the methodologies, software perhaps that are used by for these types of inventories. Maybe there's not much there. I don't know. I just always, I know that Cornell does do this work. So I don't know if anyone has any or
Yeah, we don't usually, we're not really diving in and digging into the greenhouse gas inventory work per se. We're not kind of like technically trained or have the technical capacity for that, but I can certainly outreach to folks at Cornell and see if there are contacts, or if there's interest in maybe supporting an effort here, so in Columbia County. So I can put out a feeler or two and see
great.
See where we land.
Thank you. That's great.
Mhm.
Any other thoughts before we move on? I mean, Don and I will continue to work on this, and then we'll reach out to individuals, Tara, Steve, Cornell, Jennifer, and anyone else that wants to have some input here. Just reach out to us. But we will we'll put together some options for us to consider, and we'll get that out to folks to review so we can have a more informed discussion. Does that sound good? Okay,
Good.
great. So we don't have much to say on the fast charger. The update is that I've been in touch with Livingston Energy that presented at our last meeting to engage them further in what the next steps would be. I've spoken with 2 other people there in addition to Will, who presented to us, and they're going to get back to us with different options that might be available, whether it's something that would be completely private and owned privately that would come into the county. I don't think there's a big role for us other than maybe some connections and introducing people, landowners, and they're doing some analysis. I sent them along the 3 locations that we've previously kind of looked at as being potential good spots. There are others. There's economic development as a goal, which is something where I think the county does have an important role, and that could be an important part of the project. The other option is that the county would actually own part or all of the system and benefit from the revenues, but also accept the potential liabilities or the risks of charges if it's undersubscribed, if it's not used well, one or more charger. So that's kind of where we're at. We're waiting on more information from them. There's not much more we can do. We don't have resources to bring into it. It's not like we have a grant that's, but there are opportunities for us to raise those funds, and they're very significant funds. Last year there was a grant that would have paid for most, if not all, of the installation, couple $100,000 of a fast charging system, and also through the utilities Make Ready program, work on some of the infrastructure upgrades. The hesitancy and the challenge is not really understanding what the longer term liabilities are. We get it built, and if we're carrying the costs of electricity, demand charges, and software, what does that mean? I think Denal had made that point very clearly in their, your experience with level 2 chargers. So that's the hesitancy. We're trying to get that modeled out and get more information there before these grants become available again, assuming they do again this year. So we're in a better position to assess that. But we're working on that. Supervisor Adams.
Yes, I went to a training on this at the Association of Towns training for municipal officials last week. And so I'm going to be sending you a slide deck from that presentation. And one of the things that was mentioned in the Q&A was capacity. And the suggestion was that we, as towns and as a county, do a fleet inventory of our vehicles, because NYSEG or other providers are going to be paying more attention to towns or municipalities that are doing fleet inventories, and they're going to be flagged, so to speak, as territories that are going to need additional capacity. So this was a real concern. It seems that almost everyone in the room was looking at how to look at their county or their town for fast chargers, both for economic development and tourism and to satisfy local residents. But and everybody's interested in grants, and everybody's interested in doing something quickly. But the final question was, how do we set ourselves up for success? And this suggestion of getting an inventory, requesting an inventory of our various fleets seemed to be the first step. So I'll send the slide deck to Don he can distribute it to everybody. But it was a very well attended presentation. So clearly this is on a lot of people's radar.
That's great. Now, when you say a fleet inventory, do you mean like municipal fleets, like the county,
Yes. Yeah.
or why?
And apparently the fleet inventory is available at no charge, and it doesn't require. There's no commitment to convert your vehicles to electric vehicles over any given period of time, but it suggests to the state agencies or to the state providers that you're looking forward, and these are plans that are in your future. But
Yeah.
yes, it is county. It would be town or county fleets,
Right.
and across all spectrum. Cars, highway department, other departments, whatever vehicles are used by the municipality.
Great. Thank you. Tara.
Yeah, just echoing kind of what Brenda said, I was at the Association of Counties meeting yesterday. CDRPC presented to the counties on the same kind of topic, like EV fleets, and Myra from the DEC was there to talk about the ZEV rebates, and another woman from Blink Charging as well was there. But National Grid did sponsor the session, and they highlighted their fleet advisory services, which I think is what Brenda's mentioning. Basically for free, they will do a no-cost fleet assessment. They'll talk about, basically they kind of break down EV charging, make ready recommendations, forecasts for future electric bills. I think National Grid would probably be able to do yours because I believe there's county accounts that are on National Grid, if not all. But that's something to definitely look into as a free service to echo what Brenda said.
That's great. And it happens to be a climate smart action that we
Mhm.
have on our list that we want to do anyway. Don or Wendy, do we have the county has National Grid, right, as at least one of the electric providers? Or Ron knows. Okay, Ron?
Yes, and to follow up on that, Ray Jakowski and I, our county engineer, we have reached out to National Grid to try and do that assessment. And we're trying to schedule a meeting with them shortly, I think. But yes, we do have National Grid, but we do have some NICIC accounts as well too. I think the majority of them are National Grid. So National Grid was willing to help us with our future needs assessments. So we are trying to pursue a meeting with them.
It's one of the reasons why I really appreciate this this task force, because things like that happen and it's already happening. Thank you, Supervisor Knott, for that. And while we have you, can you give us a quick update on the airport project? That's very interesting and it involves a fast charger.
Yes, so the county has entered into a contract with a company called Beta. Beta runs some EV flight things. It's kind of like a large drone, if you would, but they're flying medical supplies all along the East Coast here, and they were looking for a location to have a very high-speed charger for this helicopter that plane that they run. So we worked out a deal with them to put one in the Columbia County Airport. And they've got all the electrical connection process going. And as part of that deal on the public side of the fence on the parking lot, they are going to do a level 2 and a level 3 charger for public use. So again, it's a project that the county is, going along with. We're leasing them the land, but it's all private money that's doing this. But they had to get some connections from the power company there and make all those arrangements, but that's underway. And we're told that they should be breaking ground here in April. We've asked them for kind of a press release on the information so that we can share it with everybody. And I should have that in the next week or so, I would think. We'll let you know when I get some better press on it. It's
That's
coming.
great. Is this going to be like a charge point, like a vendor type? You said it's public, so people can come and they.
Yep. I understand you'll swipe a credit card and like I say, it's their program, but there will be a fast charger involved. And just the fact that they're bringing this EV helicopter to Columbia County as a station is pretty exciting technology. These people are looking to grow this, and right now they're transporting, some private things, but mostly it's medical things. And if you go to Beta's website, and I can supply everybody with that website in the future here, but there's a roadmap they have of, a flight path from Maine to Florida right now all along the East Coast. And they're growing this thing pretty quickly as far as locating new chargers so that they can fly different routes. So that part of the technology is pretty interesting in itself. I don't know if we can claim any points for that, but bringing that technology to Columbia County is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if for the charger, I mean, that's significant news that there will be a non-Tesla fast charger, another level 2 as well. Do you know how many charge stations there will be there?
I don't know that. Yeah, I'm trying to get those details from them. But.
Great. I mean, that's very exciting news, and I think that is worthy of publicity, and I hope that you're able to publicize that. And, if we can help, that would be great. And I don't know, Don, if that would qualify us for or Wendy, some points, just because the county is involved leasing the land. Don, you're muted.
Yeah, I was looking at that a little bit. I don't know under the CEC grant possibilities. I think it says that the county has to actually own the charging station. So I'm not sure if that would qualify or not. I'd have to look into that a little bit more. I don't know if Tara knows.
Yeah, I meant the climate smart as an action.
Yeah. If the county's supplying the property, I think that would Again, I'm pretty new at
Yeah, we'll look into it.
calculating these 115 actions, but I think we would get some points for installing it on county property. But I think for the CEC, like the grant portion of it and getting points on the CEC side of things, I think the way I've read it so far, the county has to own the actual charging. But I also
They can
heard that
actually
recently
own
that,
or lease, Don. So
excuse
just,
me, Tara?
they can own or lease, just
Or
throwing
lease.
it. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, leases
Yeah,
do
well,
count.
yeah. So I'm not sure if the county is actually leasing. Yeah, I don't, I'd have to look into what.
Well,
It sounds like this drone operator actually owns the charger, isn't really leasing it from the county. I don't know.
Right, right. Well, we'll look into that. Interesting question, but it's very exciting. So thank you, Supervisor Knott, for that update and all that work. We've got a few hands up. I think Matthew was first, and then Supervisor Adams and Supervisor Collins.
Hi, yeah, I just want to go back to the fleet. Tara, maybe you could just provide a link to that program, that National Grid. That sounds like something, I mean, Germantown's already done a fleet inventory, so I don't know what the qualifications are for getting their cooperation on that, but I'd love to learn more. So if you can put something in the chat or just send an email afterwards, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, sure, definitely.
Supervisor Adams?
So my question was to Ron about the airport. Isn't the airport fenced? So would this really be public access if the airport is fenced?
Yes, you're correct. The airport is fenced, but that's why I said the EV charger for the helicopters will be on the inside of the fence. And
Okay,
then on the public side, there on the other side of the fence where there's a public parking lot, the 9H, that's where the fast charger and the level 2 charger will be. So if
okay,
you're
thanks
talking
so
up or
much.
down 9H, you could access it, is my understanding.
Okay.
It's a good spot. It's a good spot. Works out well. Denal.
Yeah, I just had a question for Tara. I was at the NICEAG conference and I saw the Blink company booth. I didn't get a chance to talk to them. Tara, do you feel that they're comparable with Livingston Energy and with ChargePoint? I mean, is this a vendor that we should all be looking at? I didn't get a chance to speak to them there.
Yeah, I think they're just much bigger. I think Livingston is more local, but Northeast. Blink actually just got the contract for the U.S. Postal Service, all of their charging stations for their fleets. So they're like a very large international company. But yeah, they definitely sounded legitimate and definitely comparable. Worth looking into.
Terrific. And I'm sorry I missed your presentation. I was up there on Monday, but I couldn't make it back on Wednesday.
That's all right.
Supervisor Knott.
So yes, Donnell, I did get to attend that conference with Tara and Blink, and I did collect some information from the Blink people to reach out to them, and they were looking for any spots that there could be available sites for them too. So I think we should coordinate on that in the future here. But yeah, it was a good presentation.
That's great. Well, it's good to see there's all of this energy and activity happening already, and hopefully, I mean, it sounds like this year we'll have at least one non-Tesla fast charger in the county, our first, which is very exciting. Thanks to that work, Ron, and hopefully we'll continue to build out this infrastructure. I feel like we're in a real time of great investment in this infrastructure where there is so much funding available, and now's the time to really build this out and make sure that we're keeping current. So it's good work. Thank you, Tara. She sent the link to the Fleet Advisory Services. Anything else on fast charging? Okay. I don't know if we have an update. Perhaps, Audrey, we have an update on the CARP, the Climate Adaptation Resilience Plan. I think you're muted.
Yeah, I thought I'd just quickly kind of give you an idea of where we're at and like what we'll be looking to do in the upcoming couple of months. So right now we are just finishing up a questionnaire that we're going to be sending out to all of the participating municipalities, and essentially asking everyone to start really thinking about who's going to be leading the effort within their own municipalities. So identifying their leadership team, which they, maybe 2 to 5 people that will be involved in all of the steps of the planning process. They'll be, you know, the folks that we contact on a regular basis. You know, they'll be guiding the plan development and all of the steps that we'll be taking, like I said. And they'll also be serving as the liaison to the municipality and other stakeholders as well. And then we're also going to be asking folks to identify their municipal and community stakeholders. So these are folks that you want involved in, on the municipal side, involved in the first major step that we're taking, which is a review of the plans and policies and actions or programs that your municipality is taking that enhance climate resilience. And so those are folks that you're probably on your planning department, maybe code enforcement. There's 6 categories that we kind of dive into with a series of questions. We have a planning tool. I think it's hazard mitigation, plan integration, vulnerabilities, and risk assessment, and what I'm forgetting one. Hang on one second. Oh, it doesn't matter. We'll fill you in. We'll be reviewing all of those categories, and I get again like looking into what policies or codes even your municipalities have. So we're and there are actually some municipalities that actually have already gone through this process with us. So we're going to be starting off in the upcoming month, scheduling our first municipal meeting to really just review those summaries and tools that we've already done. And then we'll be looking to kind of start tackling the vulnerability assessment, kind of, you know, brainstorming that, as well as we'll be, you know, looking to get at a sense of some of the history of events and really start tapping into the initial steps in creating their resilience vision for your community. And, you know, concurrently during that process, we are going to be collecting data. So we're going to be developing a place narrative that essentially will, you know, mainly focus on a socioeconomic survey and narrative. And we'll also be looking to compile, you know, maps and GIS data that we can use to, you know, start envisioning or visioning for the vulnerability assessment, as well as kind of the strategy, adaptation strategy planning. So those are, you know, those are some of our very immediate steps. And, you know, the intention for some of the major events that will be engaging these stakeholders and the leadership team will be helping coordinate will be this initial municipal meeting, will be roughly 2-hour meeting. And then we will be looking to hold 2 workshops. The first one will be a vulnerability assessment workshop. We'll be diving into that. And then the second will be kind of a scenario planning workshop. So we're going to be thinking about, you know, possible scenarios and working, you know, actually kind of play acting that out and figuring and kind of starting to get an idea of what adaptation strategies, you know, our locality needs. So those are our main you know, next steps that we're going to be looking to do. And we'll be sending that questionnaire out on Monday with kind of some, again, an overview of those next steps. And we'll be looking to start scheduling those meetings with the folks that have completed their planning tools in March. And we'll be working on gathering all of the plans and whatever we can find during that time, and looking to schedule the rest of the municipalities in April for those municipal meetings to get the ball rolling.
Great. I have a question. Thank you for that. That's great. What is the process and timeline roughly for release of like a draft and public comment? How do you handle that?
Well, we have right now we have like at least an end. We're going to be finished up by March 2024, and we are hoping, you know, I've tried to scope out the process as best we can, but we're hoping to kind of around, let's see, I was scoping at like, hopefully in October, we'll kind of have a draft prepared to kind of put out for public comment. I think, each municipality can decide kind of how long they want to go for it, 30 to 60 days roughly is a, ballpark for this kind of thing. And then, after that, we'll be looking to, kind of make those edits and fix them up. And, hopefully we'll be finished up, really by maybe January or February, but, at the very least, we'll be wrapping everything up for everybody by March.
Yep, that's great. Good update and helpful, really helpful to understand the process more and these opportunities for folks to engage and participate in developing this plan. So thank you. Thank you for all that
Yeah.
work.
And if anybody does have questions, that come up, feel free to, send me an email. I can put my email up in the chat if anybody wants to reach out.
John's asking, will there be a website where we can direct residents for information? Are you going to have anything online in terms of drafts or information?
Yes, I mean, what we're hoping to do is have each municipality post the draft of their section. So we're doing this kind of as a pilot at the county level with each individual municipality, crafting their own, section or chapter or plan itself. So we'll kind of, we'll be able to describe a lot of things at the county level and, envision those things that way. But, a lot of the vulnerability assessment and obviously the specific adaptation strategies that are recommended will be, kind of described at that local level in that separate plan. So we would have each municipality post that on their website. And our intention is to, have the leadership team present at a town board meeting, present the draft and announce at that time where people can access the drafts. As well, we would hope that, paper copies could be supplied at libraries. And, we can work with the municipalities to figure out ways to try and get, as much public input as we can, but definitely on the town's website or at least a Climate Smart Communities website.
Great. Any other questions for Audrey or comments on the CARP? Are you calling it the CARP or is that just me?
Yes, yeah, we are.
Okay. Great.
It's convenient. And even further, we can call it the Cocoa Carp if we wanted to, Columbia County Carp.
Oh yeah, that's even better. Nice. The Cocoa Carp. Sweet.
Yeah.
All right, great. I don't know if I missed anything in the chat. I see a couple chats, but if there's any questions, now is the time to ask. Thank you for that. That's exciting. That's moving forward. Don and I wanted to take some time to talk about the work plan and start with, I guess, an update on the funding. Not a lot of funding, but everything counts, and it's something that we don't have access to. It's something that comes into the county we want to be able to utilize. There's two sources of funding essentially that we've gotten or we will get, or we're confident. One is the $15,000 grant for the energy efficiency campaign. This is a NYSERDA grant, which comes with strings in terms of how you use the money, and the $5,000 similarly for the benchmarking, which also I believe has the same or similar kind of restrictions. And then there's funding that has come or is coming, and maybe Wendy or Don can update us, from Neighborhood Sun, from the solar project, what the county payment was. So Don, do you want to just describe the limitations on the NYSERDA funding? You're muted, sorry.
as far as I know, the $5,000 grants are used, a check is cut by NYSERDA, sent to the county, and it's really up to the county board of supervisors what they want to do with that money, how they want to distribute it. I would hope they would take into consideration some of our desires, but it's the smaller grants, 5,000 or lower, are free for the county to use as they want. Above that, like the $15,000 grant, the county has to spend that on either a set of 6 pre-approved projects, very specific pre-approved projects, or it's possible to develop a custom project. So some of the pre-approved projects are things like conversion of streetlights, which I've been told many times that the county has either 0 or close to 0 streetlights that they maintain. Installation of solar, which the county does have some projects that in the works that involve some installation of solar panels on some of the buildings I know of. Third one would be purchase of electric vehicles, which has been discussed a lot over the last few months. And we just purchased a vehicle last night because my wife was in an accident, and they are hard to come by. They're just, not really readily available. Installation of electric vehicle charging stations, which again has been a long conversation we've been having. I don't know if we are ready to spend the money on that yet. And the last two, which I think would be easier, just my opinion, either it's because we have by using either a clean energy communities energy study or I'm not sure how you pronounce the acronym, ASHRAE level 2 or 3 energy audit. They have projects built into those energy audits that they recommend that the county implement. We have one that was done for 3 of the county buildings. I don't know if there are any projects left in that audit that would qualify for this. Again, I'd have to talk to, I think, our engineer, Ray Jakowski, and Brian McDonald for the facilities to see where that energy audit stands. If there might be some projects we could use this $15,000 for, or we could perform a new a climate energy communities audit, okay, to find out if there are any other buildings that might need some upgrades. So, and I know the initial audit was only done for 3 buildings, so I'm assuming that there might be a need to do this or desire to do this for some of the other buildings, but I don't know that until I talk to Ray or Brian to see where that stands. So those are
That's great.
Pre-approved options.
Thank you, Don. So it's when we're, and I don't know if we have a number on the solar. The money came from the private companies that just came to the county, and some went back to the towns that were participating. But it sounds like and let me just clarify one question. The NYSERDA, the $15,000 would be a reimbursable. So the county.
So on top of that, the county has to spend the money first, and then they get reimbursed for it. Yeah.
Can the county apply for reimbursement for a project that one of the projects that Supervisor Knott is involved in, where there are upgrades to the Health and Human Services building and other things? I mean, he's been involved in the energy audits, and that's a question. Like, can we take a project that's ongoing right now and apply for funding to take $15,000 off of the cost?
That I don't know. Yeah.
It has to be not started yet, if that makes sense.
Okay, so it has to be something new.
Yeah, it has to be something new. It can't be already completed.
Can it be planned?
Yeah, planned is fine. If you have like a plan in place and it just hasn't broken ground yet, if that makes sense.
So I think that's the easiest, it seems to me, and I know there's some hands up, just a thought to throw out there, which is, the $5,000, maybe we can ask to use that, ask the board to approve it as part of a request if we want to do like a greenhouse gas inventory or something else that costs money. The 15, it's going to go towards some county project, makes sense to just follow and support the projects that are ongoing. There are many of them. And figure out where it makes the most sense to do it most efficiently to make sure that we can get that money into the county coffers. And then the other money, the 5,000 plus whatever we got from the private solar, maybe we can use that. Anything else we raised this year as part of a budget request for a special project that we can ask the county for to go towards something that we want to work on next year. Christina, I think first, then Steve.
Hi, just another idea that Germantown did get approved from NYSERDA to use is doing a green revolving fund, which we're still in the process of setting up and can be a little bit annoying for your budget officer, but basically we're setting aside that $5,000 and then making like a small committee with myself, Matthew, our highway superintendent, and some town board members to decide yearly how to use it. So if we want to, replace the fridges from the 70s in the highway garage, we then look at what energy they're drawing with a very simple tool, look at the savings year over year, and then that feeds back into the fund. So you keep funding green projects that way, and the money savings that is generated continues to fund green projects. And it can also work really well as a teaching tool for those who are economically than environmentally motivated.
Great, thank you. Steve.
Yeah, Tara can clarify if I get this wrong, but I think that any of these funds can be used for any energy related upgrades that the county does. I don't know, Don, if you had mentioned even heat pumps too. That could be something. And you can combine the different grants too. So you could use the 15 and the 5 and make 20. Use that for a $20,000 project. But as we found, that project, as Tara said, has to be approved by NYSERDA to begin with. So maybe something that you're planning, you have to go in, say, to NYSERDA and get the pre-approval and then get reimbursed afterwards.
Right. That's why I think it makes sense to try to find a project that's already in the works, that's planned. I don't know if it's planned and budgeted, if that's too far down the line. That's what we have to clarify further. But then, Supervisor Knott and Dawn talking to Ray and other people, maybe we can identify a logical project that this money can go towards, and then we can think about the other funds for something else. And we should turn to that now, unless someone has any thoughts like on a particular project, but we can follow up on that and just make sure that money gets used. And then hopefully when we appeal to the county for funds, they recognize and we get some sort of like credit for having brought that money in, so that they're more likely to support our efforts to use $15,000 of county money towards some other climate related goals that we have, because that's the process we'll have to go through. We wanted to talk about some, well, Don, do you want to introduce there's a couple work planning tools that I think would be great to start to introduce to folks, and then provide so that folks can review these and look at them and come back in a more informed discussion at future meetings. But I'd like to develop a work plan that we can put forward to the Board of Supervisors in a more comprehensive way, where we say, these are the projects that we are working on. These are the projects that we would like to work on in the future. And any affiliated budget requests that are required to fund those projects, we could provide that early to the proper committees, and it could go to the board, and we can get approval for a work plan, as well as potentially any kind of funding that we're asking for. And Don has updated a bunch of the tools that we've been using, that Wendy's been using, that Alejandra started, and they're very useful. And we can get into the details of them a bit, or talk about some of the highlights or some of the projects right now. But Don, do you want to just tell us what we have to work with here?
Yeah, yeah. Just one follow-up to the previous topic. There's a timeline that we have to follow for using the $15,000 grant. It's initially it's pretty tight. We have 3 months to actually make a decision on which project of those 6 that we want to choose. It has to go through committees. It has to go through the full board. I looked at the calendar, which means if we keep to the original defined timeline, we have to decide on that within the next 7 weeks in order to make it. But as Tara pointed out, we can make a 2-month, ask for a 2-month extension on that. And I would assume that the task force might want to ask for that extension, and I can do that if you want me to. I think it's just a matter of sending an email back to them explaining that we have a really tight timeline on that.
Yeah.
Brenda?
Yeah, Brenda has something to add. Go ahead, Brenda.
With the passage of the 2023 budget, the county's already identified the projects that it's going to undertake for the year. And I think, Don, if you and whomever you think is important met with Ron, we could probably identify those projects pretty quickly. Because and Ron would know not only what the he could not only identify the projects, but he could tell you what the status of those projects are.
Okay.
To Tara's point, which ones have broken ground and which ones haven't. So I think we could have that information in a couple of days, actually.
Yep. Okay. I will follow up.
It doesn't mean that we don't need to do the extension but I think typically you can
Right.
get it. The home committee in this case is county government. You can get it through county government and finance in the same month. You know, I leave it to your judgment as to whether or not we need the extension or not. But
Okay.
you know, we should be pretty far along in the process
Yeah.
that you described.
Yep. All right. I'll follow up with that. Okay.
Yeah, it'd be great, just quickly, Don, before you move into the work plan, it'd be great if we could bring that back to the task force at the next meeting with whatever project has been selected. You know, that's a good candidate. Be great to make sure, checking with Tara, that it qualifies, that we feel confident it would qualify. It's not too far along. And then, you know, we can make a recommendation in a resolution to the committees to support that. I don't know why anyone would oppose it if it's going to work and it's going to bring in $50,000. It's great to do that and get that flowing. So we'll talk about it. But thanks so much for that. That's exciting.
Sure. All right. Okay. Let me see if I can. I'm going to try to share my screen here. It will work. All right.
It's working. We can see your desktop.
Okay. I'm going to open up two. So in order to get myself up to speed, I mean, I went back and I watched every single YouTube that's been posted of this task force. There's a lot of very knowledgeable people in this group, and I was quite impressed and a little bit intimidated, to be honest. I was, you know, there's just a tremendous amount of knowledge in combined here with all the people who are involved with these projects. So trying to get up to speed. I went through, again, you watched all the YouTube videos. I looked at all the documents I could find that pertain to what the task force has done so far, read through. I started primarily with Alejandro's roadmap to bronze that she had developed and just went through and tried to evaluate all 115 actions that are in the Climate Smart program list here. And I came up with.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you just go larger on the and make sure that left column B maybe is legible?
Right.
And we can then scroll over. It's hard to show this, of course, on a.
Yeah, I will.
At least then we can see the actions, and then column B and C, I think, are the key. Yeah, perfect.
It's a little bit better. Okay, I can scroll back and forth here too. All right, so I went through all 115 actions on the list. I picked out the ones, and I didn't want to send this out beforehand because we didn't really know until I think it was yesterday which actions had actually been approved by the state, but I have them all marked down here. All the actions, like 22, there are 22 different actions that have been approved by the state that got us to the 132 points that we have, enough for bronze. I also, so they're all marked in green, color coded. I have gone through, again, viewing all the past YouTube videos and looking what Wendy had submitted um, for getting bronze. What I viewed as active actions that the task force is currently working on, color coded them in blue. Also evaluated all the action, all 115 actions to ones that would not pertain to the county for some reason. The county has no control over zoning or land use issues or building code enforcement, those kinds of things. A few of them I put in this doesn't apply to the county category because, again, street lights and traffic signals, I don't think the county has any of those that would apply. So there are, like, about 20, almost 20% of the actions of the points for each of these actions are unavailable to the county out of the total, which is 1,097 available total. So I categorized them all that way. And the other ones, the ones that the ones that don't fall into the approved or actually actively working on category, I kind of separated those into two other categories. So these are all things we could think about, right? So that we might want to consider doing. And I took my sort of initial guess at which ones I think would be easier for the county to start working on, and some I think they're either larger projects or look like they might involve some funding necessary to do it, or just sort of my gut feeling that the county may not be ready to just immediately grab onto some of these other actions. Not that they're crossed off at all, but I think they just need a little more discussion
Great.
From the board of supervisors to see if these are things that they might want to
Yep.
grab onto and try to implement in some ways.
That's great, Don. Can you just move it over so we can see column B? So we can see what it is you're showing. Yeah, that's great. So what there are some on here that we've talked about, like fleet inventory, and those are in the second category. I think, if you scroll up, what's the second category there? The twos. Right. Active or under consideration. No, that's actually under consideration. So, this is a fluid process here, but there's a lot in here. As you look through it, you say, oh yeah, we were talking about that, or we are kind of doing some planning on this, where we can really move forward. A couple of them that came up in our conversation the other day that I think are really interesting, and they get to kind of the education and outreach online and in person pieces that I know Don is very passionate about, and in particular the website and social media. There is an opportunity there to have more information available for folks and for us to really kind of invest in that. So if there's an appetite among this group to help Don do that, then we can go in that direction. That doesn't necessarily require we can do that in-house. We can just do that through a series of volunteers. And those are the types of things we need to discuss. Like, is there an appetite for us to work on that? So I think the process here is for us to, we can get into a discussion, but really it's to evaluate this updated list, and it's constantly being updated. And then I don't know if you want to share it as an Excel or a Google sheet, but really just digging in so that we can have a more active conversation about prioritizing projects that we want to put into a work plan and we want to work on next year. We already have projects we're currently working on, and everyone knows that. and there's more that we can do. There's, if we're slowly kind of gathering information on DC fast chargers and trying to figure out where there's an angle and how we can get something moving forward. That's fine, but then there are other things that we could be doing in the alongside that as well. We need folks to really consider what they want to participate in and what we should be pushing for. And then there's a series of things that were completed but not approved, which can also be projects that we're working on. These were actions that we submitted for, but we didn't get approval, and there are opportunities for us to actually do a few things and help work with the county to make sure we do get approved. That's kind of low-hanging fruit. Like recycling bins. That's one that, there were recycling bins put in the county offices in part to get it to recycle, but in part to, qualify for those 3 points. But the resolution that was submitted didn't stipulate that the number of recycling bins must be roughly equal to the number of trash bins. So even if that's the case, the resolution didn't. So we can easily move forward some paper to make that happen. So those are the types of things we can look at as well. And Don, if you could share that document with folks as well.
Yeah.
The one that is status of actions. I don't think anyone can see that, but there's a few things. And this is why I really appreciate Don, because he's a planner and he's pulled together this information, and now we can use it to evaluate what we want to work on next. Supervisor Adams.
I just want to thank you both because this is such a great visual aid. It's wonderful to see it this way. But I'd like to clarify active. So are all of the blue or active items things that we submitted that were not approved, or are they just things that is it a combination of submitted, not approved, or things we've talked about?
It's a combination of things that I have seen the task force talk about. A few things on there that we submitted that weren't getting approved, but I think with a little tweaking, we probably could get them improved.
Okay,
things
so
So
this is kind of our David and Don, we're kind of working on our roadmap to silver. And so if you're saying you're going to send us some notes to tell us how we could enhance or improve what we've done in order to get the blue actions approved.
Right.
And then I really appreciate your approach to how we would choose our next actions, which would be, timing, resources, and funding. I think that would be helpful too, to have those. I love those 3 target areas.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Just to kind of add to my initial evaluation of this, I mean, when I looked through all these 115 actions, I kind of picked out, looking at again from a planner's perspective, it is the first 2 groups, right? The pledge elements 1 and 2, sort of they kind of set the stage for everything that follows. Setting up the task force, setting up the, adopting the pledge, getting the coordinator, and getting the GHG inventory and the climate action, the overall larger climate action plan. Those are sort of the like benchmark actions to take. And on the other end are the public participation plan. Again, thinking like a planner, the first thing you do in any large planning project is you want to get the public involved in it, and you start off with what's called a public participation plan, and that's what this community engagement program is about. And I think we have all the parts for that. We've done the climate carnival, we have the website, we did do a little social media with the climate carnival. Maybe we want to add that into use that a little bit more for overall task force events. I know there's things that the Chairman Morrell has put out that advertise some of the things that the county is doing as far as energy efficiency and things like that. So we have all these pieces. It's just a matter of putting them all together into a written document, and then we get credit for that. So I think that's a fairly easy action to implement, and it's one of the climate smart. It's one of the priorities that they've marked as a priority at the state, and it's neat, and it's for both bronze and for silver. Okay, and then the fourth one is just sort of the follow up, the reporting and updating of the plan. So I view those sort of 4 pledge elements as the bookends or the foundation for everything that's kind of in between. Those two I call them bookends. I don't know what else to call them, but
Yeah.
those, in my view, those are the sort of the more important things to try to focus on, and I think we're already working on a lot of those.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Supervisor Adams has her hand up.
So based on Supervisor Knott's information this morning, could we move fleet inventory to active?
I certainly can. It's not. It's up to the group. And again, this was something that David and I talked about when we met, was how a lot of these things sort of fit together. There is there's a desire to move towards electric vehicles and getting electrical charging stations installed. But if you look at all these actions, there is a set of them that address that. Let me see if I can find it here.
Yeah.
Right here, there's like 3, and they actually stipulate, if you read the requirements for these 3 actions: fleet inventory, fleet efficiency policy, and fleet right sizing. They are actually required before we can apply for the points for actually buying any electrical vehicles for the fleet. And there's no requirement that we actually buy the vehicles, but by just doing those 3 actions and studies, and just make we can get credit for that. So I think that's,
Yeah.
I don't have a vote here because I'm a non-voting member according to the bylaws, but I would encourage the rest of you to move that one up into the blue area if you'd like.
Great. That's good feedback. And I think fleet inventory, it sounds like, is already underway based on what Supervisor Nod had said. And yeah, so, cleaning up some of the, doing some more planning. Again, this is the theme here. We can plan some of these actions are planning based actions, and many of them are, and they set the table for actions that actually bring change into the world, which is our purpose. So, and we get points for the planning actions. So, and they come without expenditures or budget items. So, so that's what we should be certainly focusing on, kind of getting our ducks in a row. Thank you for that, Don. Steve, you're muted.
Sorry about that. One thing I'd suggest is that we also strategically look at how we can work through the CEC program to get grant money there. And I'm going to share the crosswalk. I don't know if you've seen this before. And I'm not sure this is the latest one, but it's the latest one I saw there. So basically, this shows where you can get points from CEC and CSC actions. I just looked now and I see that the county has about 1,200 points there. If we get 3,000, then the county's going to get a $30,000 grant. So there may be programs already, actions already that we've achieved that we could file for under that. And certainly getting bronze will get us, I think, 700 points more.
600.
Yeah. So that's something I think to consider in terms of what we're looking at, like even the heat pump campaign. If you get over 50% of one building done, then you can file under the whatever the program, the official name is Clean Heating and Cooling Demo, and get another 700 points right there. So, you know, that would get us close to 3,000 points and $30,000.
That's great. That's a great point. And I think the broader point is we do more work and we're more coordinated and thoughtful, and it builds. There's momentum that's formed here, and that's what they've done in New Lebanon for sure. So it'd be great, Steve, as we talk about this next time more and get some specifics to highlight those crosswalk items that are going to be very valuable from both the CSC and CEC programs. Yeah, unlocking a $30,000 grant would be great. Be great to go into county government and make a request, having recognize that we've brought in X dollars, and requesting only requesting to use some of that for more work, which will also build. But Don, did you want to add something else?
Yeah, I just added to Steve. I was on that call. What was it, Tuesday, Steve? You were on that webinar. I watched that. It was very good. And yeah, I pretty much the same thoughts about getting to 3,000 points. We do get another 600 for getting bronze, so that brings us up to 1,800. I looked at some of the actions we could take under the CEC program. I think 3,000 is certainly doable. I saw the ones that you mentioned, the demo. That seems like a really simple one for getting like 700 points for that program. There are also some for like training sessions that we can coordinate with the state. That again, I haven't talked about this directly with Patrice yet, but we do provide training within the planning department for planning boards and ZBAs around the county. So if we can coordinate with the state on some of those training sessions, those seem to be easy points to get. So
great.
Yeah.
And Don, if you can share that, if you're willing to share the spreadsheet, I'd be happy to go through it.
Yeah, I'm going to send the spreadsheet out to everyone. The other note about CEC that came up on that webinar, though, Steve, is that I think there are some changes that are going to be made.
Yeah.
To the CEC program. Nobody wants to say what those are. I don't know if anybody knows what they are. I certainly don't know what those changes are going to be, but I think they're going to happen fairly soon. That was my impression on the talk. So there may be additional opportunities.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Don and Steve. Christina?
Just another thing to add, once you get to those 30,000 and above grants, this is something Tara and I talked about because Albany County did it. You do have the geographical disadvantaged community of Hudson and parts of Claverick. So once you get to those grant thresholds, you can do an add-on grant application for an additional $10,000 to be used in those geographical areas.
Great. Good. Oh, okay. So we are going to review the documents that the spreadsheet and the other document that Don sends out. Please take some time, look at it. We all have experiences with these programs, varied experiences and knowledge about these types of actions and projects. So be great to have a robust discussion next time and put forward some priorities that we can then put into a work plan and submit to the Board of Supervisors, including any type of funding requests. We also will follow up with the greenhouse gas inventory as we started talking about at the beginning of the meeting. Don and I will lead that effort, and we'll look at the options that we have to do a more robust community-wide inventory, so we can bring that back to folks. And we will hopefully have a project that is planned for energy upgrades that we can recommend the county apply the $15,000 to within the 7-week period we're working on. That's, I think, all that we have on the agenda, but is there anything else before we close? All right. Donal.
Oh, I just wanted to thank Don on all his work on the spreadsheet. I look forward to him sharing it. It'll be really nice to look through. So thank you very much, Don, and welcome aboard.
Okay, thanks. This Word doc that I have shown here is sort of it correlates with that spreadsheet. It goes into more detail about, why I might have put a certain action in a certain category. So it has a little more detail about each of the actions than the spreadsheet does. So I'm going to share that one too.
Okay, great.
Yep.
It's really worth digging in because he's put a lot of effort in here and there's a lot you'll learn from it and it'll help inform our discussions and our planning. So yeah, thanks, Don. Really tremendous. Steve?
And I'd just like to end with a big thank you to Wendy too for all she's done. We appreciate everything. It's been a lot of work and you deserve a lot of acclaim and thanks for that.
Indeed,
Here,
indeed,
here.
absolutely. When we have a meeting in person someday, we'll toast you.
Thank you, Steve.
But here's a virtual toast. And you got a thumbs up from Bill. So thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. We'll follow up. We'll see you in a month and stay well. And hopefully winter continues for a little while longer.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.